let's chat about my September TBR slash MBR. Hello everyone, welcome back to A Fictional Escapist. My name is Chris and today's video is my September TBR slash MBR. Now I do have a TBR slash MBR for this month because I have 6 books set in stone that I do want to read and do want to get to, but I also have 6 books that I might want to get to if I have a little bit more time than I initially anticipated. So we will start off with the TBR. These are the 6 books that are definites on my list, and then follow on with the MBR with some books I don't know that much about but I am curious. Now it is Sci-Fi September, which means that we are all sci-fi all the time. There are a couple of genre mashups in here in terms of being maybe sci-fantasy or sci-horror, but it's all within that sci-fi umbrella. Jumping into the TBR, the first book on my radar is The Invisible Tether by J.P. McDonald. This is a fellow Australian author who's been on my radar for a little while now. I'm currently seeing some writing updates for another book, and I thought, hey, I really should give this guy's first book a go. This one follows Cooper and a group of teammates, I believe, as they're travelling to northern Queensland for a sporting tournament. On the way, unfortunately for them, the plane gets hijacked. They discover that the flight attendant who has caused said hijacking is a bigger threat to the entirety of humanity than anyone really thought. So looking forward to jumping into this one. This will be the first read that I have off the bat in September. Following that up, I'm going to be reading To Those We Found by George Ander. This is another author who has been on my radar for some time. Even before their book was actually published, I was following George's sort of progress up until the release date. Now, this is a little bit different for me. It is a YA first encounter novel, but I'm super curious. This cover has seen multiple revisions, and at the moment it is the best one in my opinion that we've seen, and I'm curious to give George a go and to give him a shout out and get a review up here on the channel. Both of those two will be ebooks. The first physical book that I have for the month is the SPSFC winner of 2021, The Iron Truth by S.A. Tholen. I don't want to know what this book is about, so I haven't read much of the blurb just because I want to go in completely blind. I've heard this book mashes up some horror elements in with the sci-fi, which is really cool. I always love when horror is in other genres that I enjoy, because I do enjoy reading just straight up horror as well. So I'm looking forward to getting to this one. This will hopefully be fairly early on in the month so I can get a review out for this book. The next physical book that I have to read on my list in the month of September is The Long Way to a Small Angry Planet. This is by Becky Chambers. Now, I believe this is a more casual space opera-y sci-fi. There's a bit of adventure in there, but it is a slower read, and honestly, I don't mind a bit of a slower read personally. So looking forward to jumping into this one. We're following, I think her name is Rosemary. Rosemary Harper joins a crew on the Wayfarer. This is the Wayfarer series, book 1. And they basically get offered a job that they cannot say no to. It will give them enough money to live out their days as happily as they ever thought. But the job becomes more and more complicated as they need to make sure the delicate balance which is keeping the galaxy at peace remains intact. So looking forward to getting to that one. Looking forward to a slower read because a couple of these reads that I do have this month look to be pretty fast-paced and action-packed. The next two that are definites on my list are audiobooks, and the first one is Red Rising. I know nothing about this series except that people say if you don't like the first book, make sure you continue on because it becomes really, really good with each subsequent book. So this one is available on my library app. It's been available for ages. I'm going to bite the bullet and listen to this one first up in September. And last but not least, for the TBR, we have Moon Deeds. This is by Palmer Pickering. This author reached out to me a little while ago and said, hey, I've got a sci-fantasy, would you mind slipping it in to your September TBR? I just had a month where I basically read predominantly traditionally published fiction, so I thought, yeah, let's get another self-pub in here to review on the channel. So I'm looking forward to that one. I already had the audiobook, so why not? We'll give that one a go as well. Which leads us to the MBR, or the May Be Read. If I finish those 6 books, the first one I'm going to jump into after that is Velocity Weapon by Megan O'Keefe. Now, I initially bought this book because this cover is rad. It's a blueprint rocket mashup, and I'm curious. I'm more curious because I know people who have read this and it missed the mark for them, but I also know people who read this and thought it was brilliant. So I always love reading polarizing books in terms of people who either follow me or I follow, because I never really know where I'm going to sit. I don't tend to lean one way or the other, so I'm always curious, and I'm looking forward to jumping into that one. This one I am hoping to buddy read with 2 friends of mine, so we'll see if we get to that one. The next one on the list, actually the next 2 on the list, are series continuations that I have read earlier this year. The first one being Ancillary Sword, which I believe is book 2. It says a sequel. Book 2 to Ancillary Justice, which I read and enjoyed earlier this year. It wasn't like a 5-star read for me, it's about a 3.5, but I did enjoy it and I own the rest of the series. So I wouldn't mind continuing on with that if I have some time. The next continuation I have is the Song of Kamaria, book number 2 by T.A. Bruno, and that one is called The Wind of Caesars. Now I hope I pronounced that correctly. I believe I did. T.A. Bruno, if you watch this, let me know. So I really enjoyed In the Orbit of Sirens, and like the last 20% was so anxiety inducing but brilliant that I can't wait to jump into the next one in this series. So if I have some time, I will be reading that one this month as well. Then we come up to 3, which I'm really not sure that I'm going to get to in all honesty, but they are on my radar in case I do have time. The first one on this list is The Skald's Black Verse. This one just had an escapist book tour, and it's making me more and more excited to pick this up. Also, the cover is so stunning. This is a science fantasy horror. I just realized that Moon is a skull. That is rad. This is the Dreadbound Ode book 1. I was an idiot, and I read Rob J. Hayes' list where I read it every month for indie and self-published books that come out. If you don't read that list and you are into indie and self-published books, I highly recommend it. I'll leave a link below to where he posts those blog posts. And I saw book 3 for this series, and book 3 looked amazing, green cover, and I was like, yep, bought it. When I got it, I realized I'd bought the 3rd in a trilogy, so I had to go and buy the first 2. Next up on the maybe read, and honestly one I'm probably going to bump, is The Empire of Silence by Christopher Ruocchio. I've heard nothing but praise for this series, and to the point where I'm scared of picking it up and not liking it, because there is just so much hype surrounding these books. So I am excited and also scared that I'm not going to like it as much as other people, and I don't know when I'm going to get to it. These are big old books. We're looking at 700 odd pages, and the writing is, it's not too bad, but still, big book. There's a lot of books I want to get through. Intimidating, right? And last but not least on the MBR is a book I've been meaning to read for ages, and that is Scythe by Neal Shusterman. This is another YA. I don't typically read YA. I am interested in some YA dystopian novels though, and I've heard really good things about this series. I own the first 2 books, so if I like it I can just jump into that second book. But yeah, it's been on my list and it's been bumped for a really long time, so who knows if I'm going to get to this one, but it's on there in case I have some spare time. Those are the books that I have on my September TBR/MBR. What are you reading this month? Are you excited for me to read any of these that I've mentioned? Let me know in the comments below. If you like this content, give it one of these. If you want to see more of it, click subscribe at your will, and I'll catch you in the next video. Ciao.